Well, hello. This is just going to give you some overview and how to get around here in MyMusicStaff. As you notice when you log in, you'll come to this setting for the most part called Home. We'll get back to this at the end, but one thing I want to show you first is to set your availability. If you come to the upper right where it says Settings, and if you tap that and go to My Preferences, this tab right here says Availability. Well, before I get there, you can, if things change, say your email address changes, or your phone number changes, or you need to change password, that's all found right here. The other thing you may want to change here is email my agenda. Right now you can see this is disabled. This is just a sample instructor type thing I've set up, but if I click this, it will send today's agenda at 12 a.m. So for example, today at midnight, it would have told me, hey, here's what your agenda is for this day. Or you could have it send it to you at 7 a.m., whatever the case. What I often prefer is I go to send tomorrow's agenda at 8 p.m. So today at 8 p.m. it'll tell me what my lessons are scheduled for tomorrow. So that way I can see that. So you would do that. Checking this box right here says send daily agenda even when no events are scheduled. I generally don't check it. You can, that way you can be sure that you're not going to miss lessons, but that's entirely up to you. Attendance notes. If you put attendance notes in, which I highly recommend, this gives you some easy ways to pick it up. Attendance notes are going to really help, so that if all of a sudden you get very sick and can't come in, and if we have somebody available to sub, you already have the notes in there for the student, so the sub can see, oh, yep, here's what they're doing, here's what they're working on, great, and that way your student doesn't lack in direction for what's going on. I check this, automatically copy the attendance note from last lesson. So last week I put notes, practice these scales, work on this piece of music, focus on your hand position, whatever the case is. It will automatically copy it this week when I have that student as in their lesson. It will copy the notes that I put down last time, and it really just saves some time, because then I can look and say, what did I have this student work on, and it's right there in front of me. Then find past lesson notes for events in the same event category, whether it's a lesson, a meeting, whatever the case is. Generally, it's fine to do that because you're really only going to work with lessons. But for availability, this is where you will add your availability. For example, right now you can see I have put in here for the sample that the sample instructor is available on Mondays from 2 to 5:30 in the afternoon. No start and end date means it's that way basically till we change it. Tuesday, notice, was 12 to 9. That was just from May 1st until August 31st. At that point, I didn't have availability on Tuesdays. Not from there on. Notice down here on the bottom, I added Tuesday from 3 to 7. Instead of 12 to 9, this is now 3 to 7, starting on September 1st, and no end date. So I can just do that. And then you can see I put Thursday. So you can do those. As you know, schedule is going to change. Your availability is going to change. Please enter that in here and keep this accurate, because then it will show us whether you're available for us to schedule a lesson. So keep that availability. To add that, you would simply add availability, select which days, and if it's every Friday and Saturday you're available, you could check both boxes, then you don't have to do separate ones, and then you simply mark the time using this. Make sure you check whether it's AM or PM, and your ending time. Optional start date and end date, depends on whether it's something that pertains to you. And then you would select save. I'm not going to right now, but it would show up there for you after that. So that's a very, very important thing for you to do. Again, you would find that under settings, My Preferences. The next thing I want to show you is student information. If I click on Students, you should see a list of all the students that are currently assigned to you. Now you'll notice here on the far right where it says Groups, Monthly Billing, Weekly Billing, Weekly Billing. You can see that. Until we get everybody moved to monthly billing, this helps you know whether they are the monthly billing students do not have lessons when the studio's closed. Weekly billing, they still do until we get everybody switched over. If you don't see this column, or maybe you don't want to see this column, you simply come to the area marked columns, and if you say, I want to see the groups, there it's checked, but let's say, well, I guess you don't have a choice on some of the others. Here it shows you what family they're in. If you choose not to see their family, it's gone. So if you don't see the group that they're in, whether they're in monthly or weekly, you simply come up to the columns, mark monthly, and you can find that. As you're trying to contact these students, you will look here on this magnifying glass next to the student's name, and then you see their personal information, their name, first name, last name, if the student has an email. Now, most 3-year-olds don't have an email address yet, so if you have a 3-year-old, you're not likely to find that, and you might be thinking, how do I get hold of them? You come to the family, and in the family, it tells, here's the primary contact, here's the adult responsible, and has their first name, last name. If they would have an email, it would be right here. If they have their phone number listed, it would be right in here. So that's where you would find information on the students. Now, as you are preparing your invoice to us on the 20th of the month, at the end of the day, so by the 21st, you can simply come back here and go to Attendance and Notes. Well, assuming you've been keeping up on it, you see I have not here, but you can say, oh, they were present on June 21st, but all these other dates, they were unrecorded. So when we are looking at this, we don't know whether they attended the lesson or not, whether they gave you notice or whatever. So it's important to keep track of this. But if you are keeping up with it, it's really easy. So if you're, in this case, going from October 21st to November 20th, you would say, well, let's see, here we go, 1, 2, 3, 4 lessons, assuming they were all there. Or over here it might say absent notice given. Well, you would only have 3 lessons during that time frame. So that way you can keep track and more quickly and accurately have your invoices ready, which really just speeds up the processing so that we can get you paid quicker. Now, as you are looking at your calendar over here on the side, I selected calendar. You can have several different views. If I come to the view right over here, on the right-hand side, I can view it by day. So on this day, Sunday, November 24th, or this day, whichever, you simply go through the days that you have, and you can scroll up and down for your different time. That's the day view. You can also look at the week view. It shows you the whole week at a time, so you can more quickly see what you have going on, or go, oh, hey, look at that, I have a meeting here, or whatever. You can also look at the entire month at a time, and it shows you what's happening there. Okay, my preference often is just the week view. When I'm looking at it myself, I get the whole view of the week at the time. So let's say Donald Duck, here you can see this is highlighted for today. So let's say Donald Duck wants to change his time. I could take this, there's the hand, I can drag it over to a different day or time. So I moved it over to Thursday at 4:45. Notice the time automatically changed. So we shifted that over. You do want to be careful with this because the room assignment may be in conflict with another instructor on that given day. So you always have to check for availability. It should also give you a warning if that's not going to work for you. I'm going to bring it back over here to 5. Let's say you had a student who was absent and you're making it up by extending their lessons for 15 minutes. Well, I can simply come here. You see how that has turned to an arrow, and I could drag this down 5 to 5:45. I now have made that lesson for 45 minutes. So it will then reserve that time for you, and it's less memory work for you to have to do. Now, if we are rescheduling an entire lesson, let's say it was back at a 30-minute lesson, and let's say they couldn't make it Friday, they had an emergency, and you're going to make it up the next week. You would simply mark this with the attendance, click on it one time, select attendance, and then we can select, hey, they were present. They were present, but they were late. Helps us when a parent says, hey, they didn't get their full lesson. We go, well, yeah, you came late. That's not on the instructor. Or absent, no makeup. They didn't tell you ahead of. That's the no call, no show. And this is absent notice given. They told you ahead of time, the day before, or earlier, preferably. And this would be teacher absent, give makeup credit. That means you need to make that one up, but at least we know whether the student didn't show up, the student gave the notice, or whether you simply were not there. So as I'm here, I could add notes for the particular student, or this might just go to the parent. You might, if you wanted to say something just to the parent and that the student didn't see, or just your private notes. You can do all that in there as well. This particular student, Donald Duck, the parent does not have an email address, or the student doesn't. So if it was down here, you would see their names, Donald, Grandpa Duck, or whatever their parents' names are, and then you could select whether you send them. I suggest you don't send it to yourself, because your notes will be included on your email reminder. I'm going to go ahead and close this. If I close this, it's going to say, hey, your changes won't be saved. Yeah, I know, that's okay. This is a demonstration. So you would want to save any of those things. So that's an easy way to mark your attendance with that, and then to reschedule. Going back into this one, if I want to change it, again, I can edit it this way. It's a more detailed one. I can change the day or the time. I can then also specify location. Do I want it in the Mozart, room number 1, number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, in home, trial, well, you don't mark the trial or hold. That's strictly for us to use. But in home, or what room. Now, when you do that, if the room is already being used, then it will give you a warning down here saying, hey, that's already in use. You can't do that. But, that's one way to check availability on that. When it said lesson type, the lesson category, this is the type of lesson or the type of event. It's a lesson or a meeting or a recital or a vacation or hold or a conference room, whatever the case. For the lessons, obviously, you leave them at lesson. But make sure you notice this. You cannot change all future events. You have to make sure that goes through the office. We can change future events. You can only do this event. This event would change it for that time only, not for future times. Even if the student agrees with you, you can't do that. We've got to make sure that that's done correctly on our end. I'm just going to cancel this because I don't need to change it. Let's say normally your availability is open, but hey, you're going to go see a symphony orchestra concert. Well, I'm going to create a new item here at 7:30, a new event, and I'm going to call this a meeting. It's going to reserve the time, even though, yes, I'm generally available, but I'm going to reserve the meeting, no specified room, because you don't want to take up a room for this, and it's going to last 2 hours, which is 120 minutes, and it's going to begin at 7:30. Okay, so I could then save that, and now you'll notice, hey, there's a meeting with sample instructor. Doesn't assign a student because it doesn't involve a student, but this way we don't schedule someone during that time. Now, if this is going to happen all the time, well, you need to adjust your availability so that we know what's going on with that. So make sure that we know and record that in the appropriate place. That pretty much should give you an idea how you add, how you change your things. If you, for example, if Donald Duck is going to cancel this one and you want to add it to another week, well, you cancel that one, or you put notice given, go to the next week, and let's say you're going to put it on this day, or whatever the case. You simply put there, add a default lesson. Who's the student? Donald Duck. Time, room, things like that. So that's how you're going to add. So let's say you've taught the entire day and maybe you don't use your computer or your phone while you're teaching lessons. That's fine. Back here on the home screen, if you notice, I have all these have overdue attendance. I have not taken care of those. They haven't been assigned. So I could say, okay, Superman, Donald Duck, and Mickey Mouse, they came on whatever day. I could check each of these boxes individually, or I could select them all this way, set all the selected ones. Again, let's say this one wasn't and this one wasn't, whatever. So then we can change those, set them all to present. And then I'll save it. Now you'll notice all these overdue attendance were simply cut down to these two. Very quick way just to put it. Now that doesn't allow you to put in lesson notes, but that allows you to put in their attendance so that we know whether they were there, present, present late, notice given, or absent, no makeup, meaning they did not give notice. That would be done from the home screen. So that's a quick way to take attendance so it doesn't take a full day. Now, if we want to go to a different day, you can move to a different day, and you'll see the change right in here as I move from day to day. And it thinks. So you can see what's happening on those days. And it gives a summary of, oh, hey, I have a meeting for a half hour here. What? I don't know because I didn't put in any details. But those are the real quick ways to do that. Now, just for fun, you saw how Donald Duck's attendance before was not good because I had all these unrecorded. Well, now he's present, present, present. And some of these were unrecorded. They were just longer ago. It didn't go back that far. I figured I was messed up. But this was the one where I said, nope, it wasn't present. Well, I could go back. I can edit that one and really clean up my attendance. So please make sure you keep up with the attendance so that we can see what is going on. I think that should give you a really, really good overview, somewhat more detailed than an overview, but a good way to make sure that you're using MyMusicStaff the way we would like you to be using that. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact us, and we will see what we can do to get you through that. Thanks a lot.